Namaskar and good evening. Professor Mani welcoming you to the BMA Conclave on Sustainable Kindness. It gives me great pleasure to welcome each one of you participants who have registered in very large numbers and I'm sure will join us as the session progresses. But it's always a very, very good habit to start on time, and that's something we would love to do even today. We are indeed blessed today to have with us a luminary of speakers from different walks of life, trying to practice sustainable kindness to ensure that the world around us becomes a better place and a better place and a better place to live in. Of course, for this very, very auspicious occasion, as chief guest and to deliver the inaugural address and set the context is someone whom all of us adore, all of us look up to with a great deal of respect and admiration, Rev Daaji. Namaskar, sir. It's indeed a blessing.
Namaste to everyone. Thank you.
It's a blessing for the Bombay Management Association to have you start off this BMA conclave on sustainable kindness. For the very few of us in this Zoom meet who are not aware of the wonderful work that Sri Kamlesh Patel, or as fondly known as Rev Daaji, does, I would believe that the easiest way to introduce him is he is the icon and the torchbearer for heartfulness movement, not only in India, but across the world. And a very interesting thing about Sri Kamlesh Patel is the fact that he is a pharmacy graduate who decided to build his career first in healing people and then perhaps realized that medicines are not the best way to heal people, but there are alternative therapies like heartfulness, mindfulness, kindness, meditation, and moved on from a scientific area of healing to a spiritual path of healing. And thus, over the last 15 to 20 years, is an icon for helping people get onto a path of spiritual awakening and fill their hearts with heartfulness so that the world around us becomes a much better place. He strongly believes that we combine the Eastern heart and the Western mind to ensure overall development of the entire universe. A true guru for all of us. It's indeed an honor to have you, sir, to inaugurate our BMA conclave on sustainable kindness. And may I request you to inaugurate this conclave and bless us and set the tone with your inaugural address. Namaskar and welcome.
Namaskar, sir, Professor Mani. Thank you for having me. I'm baffled and puzzled by this idea of sustainable kindness. It's like, we the human beings, minus kindness, minus love, minus compassion, what do we become?
True.
Nothing, right? We can be called inhuman without these qualities. This afternoon when I was discussing with my friend that I'm supposed to give a talk on kindness, embracing kindness. Nothing is coming to mind. That's something that I can share with this audience in a philosophical way and impress them. Then I asked him a question. Would you be kind to your son and serve him dinner and serve him breakfast as a father or as a mother? Is it an act of kindness when you serve your family members? He said, no. I said, what is the difference here? We express kindness to others, but to our own, we don't say it's kindness. It is my duty. It is my dharma. So it is precisely when we have moved away from the duty and we start talking of dharma that we make efforts in being kind. In fact, what is godliness to anyone, whether you believe in God or not? or what makes you a really, really, really good human being. To me, the godliness is when in all your acts you reflect that godliness. Even 12,000 years back, this struggle was there definitely in the minds of people who were contemplating on the idea of consciousness. I like you to refer you to this dialogue between Raja Janak and the great sage Astavakra. The very first question he poses to this very great sage, the king asks three questions. Number one is how to acquire higher knowledge, Brahma Vidya. Second question he asks, how to detach myself. And third question he asks, how to arrive at a state of liberation. So those days, if you see the literature of that era, Raja Janak, Raja Dashrath means his children, Lakshman and Ram and Sita and all those people. The rishis of those times, Astavakra, Vishwamitra, Vashishta, all of them have a common thread in their discussions, in their literature. It's all about consciousness. When you refer to Raja Janaka, when you refer to dialogues between Rama, Lakshman, and Sita, what are they talking about in their time during Vanvasa? What is the famous book written by Vashistha? They all have a common thread of consciousness. Anyway, coming back to these three questions, Sage Astavakra replies very kindly and says, Rajan, if you want these things, abandon Vishaya as Visham, means all these sensuals, hankering, fulfillment, treat them as Visham, means poison. And embrace Satyam, Ahimsa, Arjava, Daya, and the whole five qualities he describes. And then when I refer to this word Daya, it's kindness, it's compassion. Kindness to me, I would like to translate it today in our discussion. That without kindness in our heart, I think we can go nowhere. Kindness is not a verb. Like, love is something that we use often as a state of being as well as an act of love. Kindness, you cannot say kinding or kinded or things like that. See, it is always a state of being, that being in a state of this kindness. How to arrive at that? I don't think we have to worry about how to arrive at it. We are already having this quality in us all the time. Exercise your will and display it. In the management world, what happens? I give a real example from my pharmacy days. We operated a chain of drug stores in New York City and surrounding area. And we used to have services called shoppers service. We used to have about a dozen people going from one shop to another shop. They were kind of mystery shoppers. They would stand in front of our drugstores, even before drugstores were open. They'll monitor at what time they opened, when they enter the store, how you are greeted. When they give money to the cashier, was it properly counted for? Was it acknowledged? Did you get the right change? Did you try to tempt them to give you something for free? How is the ambience when you entered the store? Things like that. So multiple level they used to scan. And one day, one of the mystery shopper brought it to my attention that in this particular store, such and such a cashier is not being honest with you. So we interrogated that person, and he had sold $32 worth of a Marlboro cartoon. He gave the cigarettes, but he did not ring in the register. So I could have fired him right then and there. But instead, I chose to have a dialogue with him, see. Because I know humans' trait is if I replace one fellow, I don't think I'm going to get another honest person anyway. I'll have to keep on changing one person after the another person. But I took this upon me and say, okay, let me call him to my office. And I did, and interrogated him. And I said, look, when you need money, please tell me, but don't do this. You know, um, we have to pay bills. You also need money. But do not try to steal in this way. It sets a bad example. You will also suffer yourself consequently, that you'll feel guilty. Do you feel happy about doing these things? He said, no, sir, I don't feel happy. I said, what do you want me to do? Should I keep you or should I fire you? He said, sir, if you allow me to stay with you, I'll be fine. I'll never do this again. And I am telling you today, he's still with us, more productive and more efficient. So this is one way of showing our concerns. People may call it kindness, people may call whatever names you like to call it, being good to others. See, even when we are listening to each other with rapt attention, we are chit-chatting, then too, there is some level of civility, some level of kindness required, see, in listening. When we listen with kindness, when we listen with compassion, when we listen with rapt attention, it's not only we are fulfilling ourselves, but we are respecting the other. So kindness can be, I think, expressed in many ways. Instead of benefiting the other, I think kindness showers upon myself in greater doses than the other person receiving the blessings. I found that whenever we melt our heart and somehow carry out acts of kindness willingly, consciously, then you see your heart, the condition of your heart, it simply melts away. And it makes you really feel good at that time. Per contra, when you miss the opportunity of expressing your kindness, see what happens to your heart. If you are a doctor, you see, and you're walking through the emergency ward, and you're checking one patient after the other, and somehow you cross one patient who is demanding, doctor, please help me, I'm going through this. And you are on a rush, and you say, please wait, I'm coming in 2 minutes, I'm coming in 2 minutes. But this patient keeps on screaming, and you get annoyed and say, okay, 10 minutes. And by the time you come back, his already breath is last. What would you tell yourself at that time? That I had the opportunity of seeing this person when he was really needing me. The kindness is not to express our concern at your terms, but on others' terms. You go to the other's heart and touch their heart and see what they really need from you. See. My idea of expressing all this kindness is not to make anyone feel guilty for, missing the opportunity in the past, but how to dive deeper in oneself. Whether one believes in God or does not, it does not really matter. Whether you believe in this life or past lives or future lives, that also does not matter. But if you do really believe in God, and if you do really believe in many lives, then think over the driver that drives you may have been your father or a grandfather, or the lady who's a maid in your house may have been your mother in your past, or in the future your roads might cross with each other with the bond of something greater. So we have to be careful. And when we talk of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, where we consider each one as a family member, each one as a source of God or the individual derived from God, God is everything, then too it makes sense. And even if you don't believe in all this, then too it makes sense because it makes you really feel good. During the act of kindness, they say certain hormones are secreted in a larger doses in our system, especially serotonins, oxytocins. These are feel-good hormones. It really makes you feel good. I'm going to walk you through this process of meditation today so that one can dive deeper into oneself, into one's own consciousness, and see how we can touch the base with our deeper level of consciousness, you see. To me, there is not much of a difference between thinking and meditation. In meditation, also people think. We all think during meditation. Nothing wrong with it, though. For multiple level of thinking, which is on the surface of our mind, as we dive deeper and deeper, this multiplicity of thoughts somehow reduces, and we come to one pointed mindedness. And this one pointed mind, which is settling on one idea, that idea unfolds in the form of an experience later on, see. So depth of the ocean is like a state of meditation, and the surface of the ocean is like a stormy mind. So I would like you all to somehow, I will try my best so that you can dive deeper and see for yourself how beautiful your inner, deeper self is all about, which you have never touched. So again, be kind to yourself, be compassionate towards yourself, close your eyes and please work with me. And first I will try and help you relax over 2 to 3 minutes. And after that, I will give you the commands on how to meditate. So even if you have never meditated, please don't worry. We'll gently work together and experience our inner potential. Okay. So let's all close our eyes and pay attention towards our feet. Imagine that the energy is entering through your feet. This energy is coming from the earth. Allow it to relax your feet and your lower ankles. Allow this energy to move upward, relaxing your calf muscles and your knees, your thighs, your hip area, your entire back, now permit this energy to move in the front, your abdominal area or your stomach area. and your chest area. Feel the relaxation there. Now, let this energy move up your shoulder muscles. Feel them almost melting away. Becoming lighter. Let this energy descend into your upper arms and lower arms and wrist area, helping them relax. Okay, now let this energy move up to your neck muscles. Your jaws and helping your jaws to relax. Allow this energy to move upwards. All your facial muscles, including lips and your nose, eyebrows and eyelids, your forehead, earlobes. Now, top of your head. Scan your whole system from top to toe. If any part of your body is still stressed, please revisit that area and help it relax. This is through your attention only, it will relax. Are you ready to meditate? Gently pay attention to your heart. Think that my heart is already filled with the divine presence in the form of light, and that is calling my attention inward. So we remain with this idea that godly presence is already there in my heart in the form of light. It is calling my attention inward. If other thoughts do arise, let them. When you're overwhelmed with all these thoughts, just remind yourself that I am meditating. I'll be transmitting to you from here what we call pranahuti. That will help you meditate better. We'll do this for another 10-15 minutes. That's all for now.
Namaskar again, sir. That was a wonderful experience of how one could actually go through the process of meditation and experience the comfort at the end of the whole process. So, with your permission, I would like to bring to your notice some thoughts and questions expressed by our audience so that we could seek your response and wisdom to the same.
Please go ahead.
Is that okay with you? All right, sir. Thank you. So, one of the first questions that people are asking refers to what you correctly said. Vasudeva Kutumba is something that has always been India's theme over the generations. But today, when we are moving towards nuclear families, how easy or difficult is it to practice this? And if you can share some wisdom for all our young managers in this audience.
Do you really want my answer on that? Is it not obvious that we are falling apart? And is it not obvious to you that we are not practically ready to implement living together with your own parents when the daughter in law is demanding otherwise? So I think we are, as a family, falling apart. However justifiable reasons you may enforce and say, "Oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. We cannot afford this." This is all nonsense. You don't care. You're not even kind enough for your parents. Forget the world. So I don't think we have a hope if a person starts justifying their reasons to be away from parents. In fact, we are paying a big price when we neglect our parents and grandparents. You see, for example, let me give you one small example of as more and more youth members are moving away from the inner parts of Amazon jungles. What's happening there? The elder generation is not able to transfer the knowledge to the younger folks that this timber is good, this tree is good for that, this root is good for that, this flower is good for that, this leaf is good for something. This knowledge is not being transferred. So, what happens then? After that generation is gone, the thousands of encyclopedic knowledge will be disappearing, right? Now, what happens in a human society when grandparents are non existent? Parents are too busy. Children are depending on digital platform and teachers. Where will they get previous generational knowledge or wisdom? Even if they don't speak much, but just being with elderly generation, elderly parents, children feel comforted. They share stories. I used to do this, I used to do that. They learn new things from the old times. When this generational gap continues, for another next one or two generations, then what will happen to this human society? Think over it. We are heading toward catastrophe. That civil society, as we call it, will no longer exist in India. It's a crisis beyond imagination. You see, you can control perhaps pollution, air pollution, water pollution, this pollution, that pollution, but unless and until the pollution that has captivated the human heart of being too selfish. This pollution is self-created and nobody except yourself can remove it. So, under these circumstances, I think Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam will remain a dream.
So would you continue to give us one or two suggestions on how we could start moving towards this, having realized the problem? What could be some of the simple solutions?
To me, simplest solution is to follow your enlightened heart. When we meditate every morning, even for 10 minutes, and when your heart sees clarity, follow that clarity. See, when I was deeply involved in business in New York, I mean, very deeply. 24 hours were not enough. And I used to frequently visit India almost 3 to 4 times a year. Each time I would stay at least a month. Very little time was there when I go back and then getting ready to come back again to be in the company of my master, my guru. So people used to wonder, Kamlesh bhai, how are you able to take out so much of time and still run a business? I said the key is meditation. I give you a small example. Whenever I would meditate in the morning, 10, 15 things would get scanned through my mind on its own without my efforts. That, Aaj ye karna hai. These are the things that I have to do today. And then what happens when I see the uselessness of certain projects, when I see that I should not do this, I should not do this, I should avoid this, I should avoid this, I should not meet this person, more than 50% of things are out. You save so much of time. So when we reflect in our heart, clarity emerges and you are masterfully in a position to discard things that I must not do this. So the discrimination becomes extremely accessible, that what is right, what is wrong, what is profitable, what is not so profitable, what is good for me or the company, what is not so good for me or the company. It just strikes your mind immediately when you are so calm and peaceful. And when you meditate, over a period of time, maybe let's see, over 3 years, 4 years, 30 years, then this process of meditation no longer remains a process because you become that. You become mentally. You are in a state of meditation all the time. So you are carrying that meditative mind all the time. That's why we're talking of kindness. Kindness is your nature. I don't have to practice kindness. It just happens on its own. And when the heart is so pure, heart is so immersed in that oneness of God, then you see that oneness in everything. And the true guidance will come from inside your heart, which is not biased anymore, which is not greedy anymore. Because all the decisions where we have gone wrong is always out of greediness and out of ego. There are two things. Greediness and ego distorts our discriminating faculty. When the greed is there, you will forget about the pollutants that your industry is letting out into the atmosphere or in underground water. See, the pollution, the root of pollution is in your mind. That will spill out in the numbers that I have to have these many numbers. So then you start cutting short on many idealistic things. So there is a law and there is a moral law. There is a legal implication, there is a moral implication. You might hide the legal problems and you might even get away even after you are caught. But your moral fabric will be lost forever. And you're no longer a human being then, see. You have lost your humanity in that scenario, you see. So meditation is one of the ways, I would say, where you sensitize your conscience. Person with conscience can do nothing wrong. He might do once or twice. Third time he'll say, no, enough. I'm paying a bigger price when I do wrong things. In heartfulness way of practices, we not only have meditations, but we also have another aspect we call cleaning, how to get rid of all these unnecessary baggages that is coming my way in making a right decision. And when we share with youngsters, that find out where have you gone, whenever you have been successful in your work and whenever you have failed in your work, find out the reason behind this both and go back. Did you make the decision with your heart or did you make that decision just impulsively? And they all found that whenever they have gone right, when the results of their actions were right, they were because heart was backing it. And when they were making decision in a rush, out of emotions, out of greed, out of ego, then the results were so bad. This we all see in marriage decisions, not only yours, but your children's. Oh, this is my community, and these are people are so rich and so well established. That will fail you because your decisions are from here, not from the heart. See?
Right, sir. That makes a lot of sense. I'm just moving on to one of our participants. Ketna, you had a question. You can unmute and go ahead, please.
Round and round.
Unmute. Not yet. No, not yet audible. No, just try once more. All right, we'll come back to you. Indrapalji, over to you.
Yes, Daji, my comment is, and then there is a question. My comment is that what we learn for so many years in our colleges and postgraduates and all is to how to take decisions with our heads. We are taught all analytical techniques and all kind of operations research and various other decision sciences we learn. And then after a long time, many years in our career, we learn from sages like you that we must take decisions with heart. By the time it is a bit too late. So is there any way to bring heartfulness right from the childhood so that we don't get overawed with so-called analytical mind and so-called decision made with head and make this world a better place?
Indrapalji, you'll laugh at me if I tell you this, that we have to, I think when you start training a child, it's already too late. I'll come to that in a moment. To me, mind is not a bad thing. When we use the mental faculty properly, and then ask our heart, am I doing it? Am I going in the right way? Heart will give you a signal. And when mind and heart, they agree, there's a kind of resonance and there will not be any more tension in your heart. See, when heart gives you a signal, it also gives us the strength behind that, some sort of a moral strength that yes, you are going in the right direction. Don't be afraid, you made a right decision. When there is confusion, that means heart is not agreeing with our mind. That's when we have to rethink and reposition ourselves and then ask heart again, what do we do? Then heart will again readjust itself and say, okay, either you do this way or that way. Now coming back to the training from early childhood, My Guruji used to say, my rather Adigu, great grandmaster, that to initiate a child on a spiritual path, it should happen at the moment of conception. But that itself will require me another half hour or 1 hour or so. But it only means he only meant to say something very profound, that when at the moment of conception, both the parents are in a sattvic mode, you are able to attract a noble soul corresponding to that vibratory nature of parents. Then not much of training, not much of inputs, not much of advices, not much of suggestions will be required, because you are able to attract the soul, that matches your vibrations, which are so holy, so sattvic. So your input also will be lesser and lesser with such generations that you are bringing in the family. So, but this, as I say, we can have another program, and I can request one of our Bombay trainer, Dr. Snehal Deshpande. I would request Professor Mani to arrange so that she can come and take, not just for you, because Indrapalji, now we are too old to invite a new soul in our family, isn't it?
Yeah. but we can at least guide the other ones who are trying to bring in.
But we can do this great favor to our youth who is listening, and in college, where so many, and even you can teach children how to do all these things. It's very simple, and whether you believe in God or not, it's important that our heart becomes nobler, good, and become kinder, compassionate, loving, and more tolerant.
Thank you, Daaji. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And the next question I have is asking your wisdom on how to distinguish communication which is based on sympathy versus communication based on empathy.
Again, your heart, it begins with the heart that listens with love, with a sweet disposition. But when you are trying to answer, even before a person finishes the question, and you interrupt, I mean, it's a bad beginning. See, sympathetic heart will always, at the next level, becomes empathetic. With sympathy, you have heard, but you can give an answer that can hurt the other person. That is not being kind, that is not being empathetic. And it is not worth being truthful also when it hurts others, what you're going to say next. So I think it is automatic when your heart is geared with your own conscience in a nicer way. It cannot afford to hurt others. So there is no exercise being sympathetic, or heart is not trying to be empathetic, or heart is not trying to be compassionate. It just happens in a very natural way, as they say in a sahaj way in Hindi. Sahajta se sab kuch ho jata hai, aise, like that.
Sir, एक और सवाल है that many companies, in a bid to demonstrate kindness and sympathy, they do a lot of good work for the society, but they often end up doing a lot of injustice to their own employees within the organization. What do we do in such situations where we are not actually practicing what we are preaching to the outside world?
When Modi ji can't do it, how can you do anything anyway? So even laws, are not able to, take over all these things. You can't. I think unless and until each individual become, conscious in a natural way, not by legal enforcement, no, but moral responsibility, when it gets awakened in individual heart, then it is possible. And that's why I say the grandparent generation is very important. Parents will push children to do, something very aggressively. You didn't bring about this result, you are so third class, but the grandparents will tell them to be compassionate, be okay, if you fail this time, it's all right. There's always another time. So grandparents are very important. You cannot just neglect them. Parents must try to center themselves within their own heart. Whenever they respond, it has to be centered. There is a difference between, earlier you asked in communication. There is a reaction and there is a response. The reaction is from here, response is from here. So the need to meditate, I would say yoga, meditation, it's so vital. It has always been vital. But people do not know how to. And there are many udyogis, yogi turned udyogi, and they are charging money left and right. And people are attracted towards them. You see, more you charge, they love it so much. Oh, this guru is charging 2 lakhs per session. It must be wonderful. But people like Daji comes up and say it's free. Nobody wants to do it, see, because it's free. It may not be anything there, see. But I would love, if you like to pay me 2 lakhs, I'll be happy to have it. But I'm not charging you.
That's very gracious of you, sir. And we know that your intentions are to spread this message and ensure that as much of India can be covered with this noble thinking of heartfulness and kindness, as you have preached in all your discourses and interactions at any given point in time. We are running a little against time, and we had promised you that we would allow you to move out at 5:30, but I'll take the liberty of just one more question, and that is, we've understood very clearly that in order to look at kindness, heartfulness, we need to have an intrinsic awakening. अंदर से जागृति होनी है. आप हमें बताएं ये जागृति हम कैसे पैदा कर सकते हैं in people around us, because nobody wants to change. Everybody thinks they are perfect.
Well, when they're thinking that they are perfect, then you can do nothing about it, sir. When there is a beautiful scenario when a person is at sleep, especially our little children when they are 6 years old or 7 year old. Imagine those days when you are trying to wake your child up, right? If he is really, really sleeping and you try to wake him up, he'll wake up. But when he has decided, at school nahi jana, I don't want to go to school, he's awake and still he'll pretend so much, you'll get tired of waking him up. So the person who does not want to, I think stop wasting your time. But the person who really wants to transform oneself, and if there is, as sage Astavakra says, there has to be some level of arjav. Arjav means a sincerity in your heart. That are you authentic about your need? Are you authentic when you say, I want to be peaceful, I want to be loving, I want to be kind, I want to be godly, I want to be noble, I want to serve? Are you authentic about this request? Then the whole universe, as they say, will bring all resources to your feet and say, okay, use me. So one has to be authentic about the change. Person who doesn't want to, I think we should not waste time.
Bilkul. I think the point about authenticity and genuinity does make a severe impact when it comes to bringing about a change in oneself. All I can say, sir, it's been a wonderful beginning for this attempt by the Bombay Management Association to launch a conclave on sustainable kindness. And we couldn't have had a better beginning than all the wisdom you shared with us straight from the heart, based on all your rich experiences of how heartfulness, kindness could make a difference to the society we live in, provided we decide that we would like to change. I think here it begins with self and then moves on to the entire society and universe around us. Thank you so much. Namaskar. It's
Namaste,
been
everyone.
really
Thank you. Thank you.
wonderful
Thank you.
having you
Thank you.
with us.
Thank you.
And I must particularly acknowledge the support of Sri Tushar Pradhanji and Sridhar Thoda, both of our friends from Mumbai, who made this evening possible to have Sri Kamlesh Patel, Rev Daaji in our presence to deliver the inaugural address. Thank you, Tusharji, and thank you, Sridhar, for making this happen. We sincerely appreciate your efforts in bringing Daaji to this forum for us this evening. Namaskar, and thank you once again.